Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leah Smalley. I'm the Assistant Director of Financial Aid Services at the Coordinating Board. So glad y'all could join me today. Today's actually our last webcast for 2020. We've had a variety of topics, lots of participants, and great feedback from the institutions. But I'm excited to start this back up next year. And so with your feedback and support, we will be starting that again probably early next year, either in February or March. So stay tuned for that. But I'm going to pull up the agenda today, and then I'm going to do some introductions real quickly. But today we're talking about TASSP and CAL processing. We're going to be going through a variety of different steps in the process. So if you're new, this will be a good overview for you. If you're seasoned, it may be a refresher for you, and you may be getting some new information that is helpful when you're doing some of this online. So today I do have two assistants on the call. We have the lovely Deshay Reed. She is the Director of Financial Aid Services. Deshay often helps me by answering questions that come up, either eligibility related or anything process related. So if you have a question, then she's going to be fielding those as we go. And then I also have Natalie Turinen on the line. And Natalie is our subject matter expert and business analyst. She works with our HelmNet system and our online Helm system at the Coordinating Board, and she's done so for many years. So I asked her to join today. That way, if people have real technical or specific questions that I can't answer, she can answer those as we go. So I have both of the ladies on today. They won't be speaking, but they'll be typing. So I do ask that if you have questions based on the slides that I'm going through, go ahead and type them in as we go. If they're super specific to your situation or institution, we may need to take those offline because they're difficult to answer just in the chat box. But if they're pretty general and they would apply to everyone on the webcast, then please feel free to go ahead and type those in. So let's get started. Let's see what we're going to learn today. So our topics of discussion, we are going to be talking about the program resources related to TASSP and CAL so that you can get more familiar on how to find information and a little bit more about the programs. After that, we're going to do a HelmNet overview, and that way you can find out not only how to get access, but how to navigate. Then we're going to be talking about online certification for each of the two programs, because while they are similar in some ways, they also have some differences that you'll want to be aware of. And then we'll talk about, after you've certified, what can you do after the fact to change some of the information in HelmNet. And then lastly, we'll circle back on any questions you have. Like I said, feel free to go ahead and type those in as we go. If something pops up and you feel like it's appropriate at that point to go ahead and ask, feel free. So let's get started with program resources. One of the most important things that we issue out every year are program guidelines. So each of the programs, the state financial aid programs, we issue out guidelines that talk about the rules and the laws associated with them. It also talks about processes and whatnot. So the first step when you're learning how to do processing is just to be understanding of the eligibility requirements and all about that particular program. If you go to the Coordinating Board's main website and you navigate to the second tab, it says Institutional Resources and Programs. If you scroll down and when you click on that tab, one of them says Student Financial Aid Programs. When you click on that, it has a variety of choices in the menu, and if you click on Program Resources, this page will pop up that you see on your screen. And as you can see, all of the different categories are listed. So we've got grant programs, loan programs, scholarships, exemption and waivers, and so on and so forth. So in order to get the guidelines, you have to go to Program Resources, and then you have to click on the link that the program would fall under. So today, since we're talking about TASSP and CAL, we're going to be looking at these two links. So for this webcast, I went ahead and selected the loan programs link so I can show you. So when you click on that, this screen is going to pop up, and you'll see that in the center of the screen, you've got each of the two loan programs be on time being discontinued, so keep that in mind. But CAL, we have our current program guidelines, and then we have last year's program guidelines. And sometimes that's helpful so that you can do a comparison between the two. You'll also notice that the Texas Administrative Code and the Texas Education Code are also there at the top that you can go find additional information. And then lastly, on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see resources. And these are all related to these two programs. So this is where you're going to find different instruction manuals, portal access, forms, that kind of thing. So each page within our SFAP web pages, they house different resources. So you will want to navigate to the appropriate place to get those items. So let's talk about TASSP a little bit. So TASSP is a pretty unique program because in order to receive a TASSP, a student actually has to be appointed. So a student would then apply to either the governor's office, lieutenant governor, or with their state representative, and they're going to receive that appointment through a letter. Once they receive that letter, they're going to bring it to your institution in order for you to see if they qualify through your institutional eligibility process. In order to receive it, the student must be registered with Selective Service or be exempt. And then they also have to be enrolled and in good standing with your ROTC program or another undergraduate officer commissioning program. So when you're going in to certify that, you're confirming that they meet these criteria. So let's talk about the amount that you can award. For TASSP each year, we make an announcement on just how much a student can receive. So this year for 2021, the maximum amount that a student can get is $10,000. So that's going to be typically is $5,000 per semester. It really depends on the institution on how you package those funds, but that is an annual maximum, and it does change from year to year. The past few years, it's been around $10,000, but it has fluctuated, and it's based on the legislative session, which is coming up in January. So we'll see what changes may happen with the program at that point. Let's talk about the TASSP process flow. Again, I'm giving y'all an overview of these programs. If you go into the guidelines, you're going to see a lot of this information as well, but there's even more information available. One of the unique things about the TASSP program is the way in which the student actually applies. So unlike a private loan, because this is a scholarship, the school actually initiates the certification first. Then the student goes online and does their application. Most of the time when the student's doing a loan, they do it the opposite way. They're going to go in and apply. If they get approved with their credit, then the school would go in and certify that they're in school. So this one is very different because, again, certification actually happens first by the school. Then the student goes in and does it. All the steps below it are pretty standard, and we'll see that again with CAL. So speaking of CAL, let's take a look at the difference. So College Access Loan is a program, it's an alternative type loan funded through the state, and it's backed by bonds. And in order to receive a College Access Loan, the student must be classified by your school as a Texas resident. Again, be registered for Selective Service or be exempt. All programs funded by the state must have this requirement. Enrolled at least half-time. The student has to be meeting your institution's SAP requirement. So satisfactory academic progress is one of the requirements that you check on your end. If the student's not meeting their SAP, there is the possibility that the institution can have the student appeal, and if you approve it, then you can choose to allow the student to get the CAL. But that is, again, an institutional policy and process. And then lastly, in order to receive the CAL, the student does have to have a favorable credit evaluation. And what that means is that either the borrower or the cosigner has to have a Vantage score through Experian. The minimum is 650, and then they will be approved. And we do see a lot of students apply with cosigners either because of their age or whatnot. So that is pretty typical. Okay. So let's talk about when you're certifying the CAL. Again, additional information is available through the guidelines, But in general, the loan has to be at least $100 or greater. It cannot exceed the difference between the student's cost of attendance and then other forms of eligible financial aid assistance. So what does that include? Financial assistance is going to include your free aid, which is grants, scholarships, or any other type of gifts. And it's going to also include federal direct loans, but it does exclude PLUS. So any of your subsidized or unsubsidized loans, those do get calculated in on top of the free aid. So one thing to be mindful of is that even if the student chooses not to accept the aid, it still must be deducted. Also, if the institution chooses not to participate in the direct loan program, you still must deduct that from the amount before you go in and you certify. So all of these things, again, very important to understand the eligibility pieces of these two programs. So that way, when you're going in to certify, you know that the student is eligible and that you're following the rules so that you're in compliance. So now that we know a little bit more about where to find information and a little bit more about these, let's talk about the CAL process and how it's different than TASSP. Like I mentioned, the student goes online first and they apply. They go through a credit check. They have to have that 650 credit score, or they have to have a co-signer. Once they go through and they get approved, either because the credit bureau approves their application or they go through the coordinating board with some additional steps, then they go through the certification process. That's at the point where the institution is going to log in and confirm that they're eligible on their end, and that's when the process can continue. Everything below that, you'll see, actually mirrors the TASSP program. So it's just the first piece of it that is variable. Okay, so let's talk about HelmNet. So we've talked about the two programs, we've talked about where to find the resources on those, but now it comes down to how do you actually certify a student online. And so the first step is HelmNet login. If we go back to the Student Financial Aid Program's webpage, because that's where we house all of our information and links and resources, you can go to the program resources page and again go under the loan programs or the scholarship page. And on the right-hand side, you'll see a web portal section. And underneath that, you can see that it says HelmNet login. We also have a reporting manual available that you can use. So once you click on that link, a screen is going to pop up that looks like this. And on the left-hand side, you're going to notice that it has a login or a create account button. When you click on that, this dialog box will pop up. If you already have an account, you enter your username and password. But do not be deceived if you don't have an account. You actually cannot create an account by using these links below like you would, if you're establishing an email account or a patient portal or anything like that. HelmNet accounts are specific to institution and by user, and therefore we actually have to set those up at the coordinating board manually. So institutions actually have to request a HelmNet account by submitting an online user access form. Which is found on our webpage. I'll show you in just a moment. Now, in the event you forget your password, you get locked out, you can't remember something, and you're a seasoned user, this again can be somewhat deceiving because it looks like you can reset or unlock your account. These links are only specific to the borrower or the co-signer. We tried to limit the amount of information that was on here. So again, I know it can be confusing at times if you're brand new, but if you get locked out or you need assistance with anything related to user access, you can call Financial Aid Services for login assistance, or I'm going to be talking about how you can get in touch with us as well. Okay, so we just talked about you need a user access form in order to get access to this portal. So let's see where we find that. Going back to SFAP again. Under Program Resources on the right-hand side, you can see that there's a web portals. On each page, you'll see the same section. And at the very top, it says to add, update, or remove user access, submit a form. When you click on the form and it pops up, it's going to require that the Director of Financial Aid fill out the institutional information and to certify that they're going to be requesting access here. Page 2 of the user access form in section 2 is actually dedicated to HelmNet access. So you'll be able to request or update HelmNet access here. Once we receive this form and it's signed and dated and it's filled out properly, we manually create an account for those users and we email those individuals to give them their credentials. Then we also email the director back to let them know that that account has been created. Okay, so once the user gets their account information via email, they will then be able to log in using that login screen that I showed you. Once you log in, a new menu is going to pop up on the left-hand side. And you can see here, you can actually go in and change your password if you need to, but then you'll notice there's a whole listing on the left-hand side of things that you can do in HelmNet. So we're going to go through those one by one just to give you an overview. The first one is the New School Certification link. This is dedicated to the TASSP program only. Now you may think, well, that seems illogical. I need to certify something, so if I need to do CAL, like where do I go? So if you need to certify CAL, you actually have to do a borrower query in order to find the student's application. So again, going back to those differences, TASSP, you click on New School Certification. CAL, you're going to click on the borrower query, and we're going to go through that in just a moment. So let's talk about the inquiry options on the left-hand side of your menu. So these are kind of a snapshot look at either the application or the loans that are in process. So these are, again, something that you can do quickly to look up a listing of students. 9 times out of 10, if you're looking for an individual student, it's best to use that borrower query we just touched on. And we'll continue to talk about the borrower query as we go. So let's take a look at these and just kind of give a little snippet of what you're going to find for each one. So the application query really helps identify incomplete applications. So if you've got students who started their application online but didn't get through the whole process or were waiting on something, those are where you're going to find these the easiest. The second one there is the borrower query. Again, you're going to hear me mention this over and over again. The borrower query is the fastest way to pull up an individual student, regardless if it's an application or if it's already become a certified loan or scholarship. So this is the kind of search, if you will. It's kind of the search feature of the portal. The third one there is the loan query. This one helps identify either loans or scholarships that have been created or certified, but by status. So you can look at things like guarantee date, guarantee amount. You can look at various statuses like those that are partially dispersed. So again, it's a quick way to pull a listing of students that meet a set criteria. And the last one, dispersal query, you can use this for different things, but in my opinion, the most helpful is that you can use this to drill in on which students are either on hold, are released, or that are pending disbursement, or that they have a certain set disbursement date range. So dispersal query is really nice. If you don't typically put students on hold, you can run this quickly just to make sure you don't have anyone sitting on hold, and then that's preventing their disbursement from going out. So one thing to note about these queries is that because they're more of a snapshot, they don't have a download feature. They don't have a lot of ways to be interactive with them. So very recently, we released instructions on the next one in the list, which is our loan reporting feature. This is something that just got released a few months ago, and we did a prior training on a webcast that went through it in more detail. But if you go onto our SFAP webpage on the right-hand banner, and keep showing you, on the loans page or on the scholarships page, there's something that says HelmNet Online Reporting Instructions. And this goes through the various types of reports that you have at your fingertips, where you can run the various statuses and you can go through those to identify the students that you either need to contact or you need to certify, or that you want to just look up to see who's pending disbursement. So it's a really great tool that, again, is different than the queries, because the queries, again, you cannot download or manipulate in really any way. But the loan reports, you can be interactive with them. You can click on the individual students. You can download it into a variety of different platforms such as Excel or PDF. So it's a pretty robust reporting system. And so if you haven't seen it yet or tried it yet, then I recommend trying that as well. Okay, so things to know about the reports that's pretty important. And again, I addressed this on a prior training, is that when you run the reports in here, it's not going to capture application, for one. And two, the most important thing is that it's run by program year, meaning it aligns with the state's fiscal year. So when you're extracting information, the report is going to pull student accounts with a loan period that falls within the program year. So that's pretty important when you're doing that, because when you're trying to identify a student, you may think that they fall into one program year, but really they don't, because of when their loan period ends. So I just wanted to remind people of that, because again, the coordinating board's fiscal year and the state's fiscal year may not align with your academic calendar at your school, but that's how we have it set up. So it's really helpful to know that going into the loan reporting section. Okay, so last but not least, on the left-hand side, we've got two different little tip options. We have login tips and ACH enrollment tips. And these are specific to students and co-signers. This is, again, to assist them on how to log in, how to set up an ACH, which is, their automatic debit for their payments. So these are not intended for institutions, but they can be helpful if you're trying to assist a student. Maybe they have questions or they can't get into their account. You can always log in and pull up these resources to assist them. And then again, a reminder, if you yourself have login issues or questions, then you can call financial aid services for help. All right, so we got through the left-hand menu. So now we kind of have an idea of what all of those options are. So now we're going to be talking about certification. So we went through the programs and we identified that the two are very different, in the sense that with the TASSP program, the student is going to have to go in after the school. The school creates the certification. They notify the student that the application is available, and then the student goes in. That is very different than CAL. So I thought what would be helpful is we can look at a TASSP student first and see exactly how we go into HelmNet to certify them. Okay, so once you're in HelmNet, remember I told you that you need to click New School Certification. And then once you do that, the middle screen tab pops up. And you're going to enter in the student's social security number, and you're going to hit look up borrower demographic. If it finds the student in our system, then when you scroll down, it's going to populate the student's information. If it can't find the student based on that social security number, then it's going to allow you to go ahead and fill in the borrower information. So in this example, I went ahead and entered in Mickey Mouse. I put in Mickey's date of birth. It automatically pulled the social security number from when I first typed it in, and then I entered the address and all the other applicable information. Another thing to keep in mind is as you scroll, there is a radio button that says Texas Armed Services Scholarship Program. You do have to click the radio button. It will let you keep scrolling and start filling in information, but if you don't select that, you're going to get stuck and you may get frustrated, because it's a very sequential steps here. So you need to just go down the form. Okay? So once you click on the TASSP radio button and you keep scrolling, then it comes to the enrollment information. You'll need to select the school name. I left it blank because I'm not really associated with the school at the moment, and I didn't put that in there, but you do just click on yours. It will be one option in your drop-down list for your school. Grade level, you'll go ahead and select whatever status they are. You'll put their enrollment status, and then you'll enter your academic loan period for your institution, and then whatever anticipated grad date they have. In the financial aid information at the bottom, you're going to enter their cost of attendance, their estimated financial aid, and then your certified loan amount. And as a reminder, with TASSP, it can't exceed $10,000, otherwise you'll receive an error. Okay. So as you continue to scroll, it comes to the dispersal information section. In the first step, you're going to enter the number of disbursements that you're seeking, and it will automatically divide the loan amount that you're certifying or scholarship amount, depending on which program, and it's going to evenly separate those out. And at this point, you can change those amounts if maybe you want a different amount. You want less the first disbursement or vice versa. You can change those. You can also go in and add the dates that you want to receive those funds. Then lastly, as you scroll, you're going to get to the certification. You're going to select the little radio button that says Certify, and then you'll hit Submit. And once you do, then it will be up to the student to log in to their account, and they'll complete the TASSP application online. So let's talk about CAL. When we go through this, you're going to say, hey, that looks very similar, and it does. That's the nice part, is it's in the same platform, so we have a lot of the same screens as you're going to see, but I'm going to show you some of the differences. So when it comes to CAL, you can identify a student that's ready for certification in 3 ways. You can use that borrower query that I keep bringing up, and you do that by going to the HelmNet screen and you click on borrower query. You type in either their social or their name, and it will pull the student if they're attending your school. The other way that you can do that is through that pending certification report under loan reporting that I mentioned. When you click on loan reporting and you toggle through to the menu, it's going to pop up, and one of the options is pending school certification. That's going to pull all the students that have done what they need to do, and the coordinating board has said, yep, these are the list of people that are ready to go. The last way you can identify if a student who completed a CAL application is ready for certification is by logging in through MoveIt. MoveIt DMZ is our online secure portal that you can download data or transmit data, and a lot of schools do use common line processing, but one of the things that the coordinating board does is each time you process loans through us, we do send you files that are generated automatically. So that's another way you can look to see which students are available. So you have all 3 of these options. And here's a picture of MoveIt. You do navigate to your loan output file, and then you'll see the files listed, and you'll find your certification file in the list. So when you type in the student, when you're doing the borrower query that I told you about, it's always going to pull up a borrower summary. And that's the same as if you also run a loan report, and the students that come up, you can also click on the student. That will pull up the borrower summary as well. The borrower summary is, I only have a part of the screen on here because I wanted to focus on one part. But on here in this example, you can see 2 things. For this particular student, they not only have an application ready, but they also have prior loans on file. And you can see on here that they have the various loan ID numbers, and they're in sequence. So they have 1, 2, and then they have 3. Just note that if a student attends another school, you may see a lapse in sequence. They may not always be in order. So if you're wondering, hey, there's one missing, it's possible they went to another school. There's other reasons why there may be a gap in the sequence there. But again, we have the 2 sections because the top section is saying here is something that is in process right now. It's either not ready for certification or it is. And then the bottom section is going to identify loans that are either pending disbursement, they have partially dispersed or they're fully dispersed. So just wanted to point that out. So one of the nice things on the application section is you have your Edit Certification Information button, which we will touch on in a moment. And then you have a, oops, went the wrong way. You have your current status little button here. And this actually launches a application checklist. And not only can the institution see this checklist, but the borrower or the student can also see this checklist. So I wanted to show y'all what that looks like a little bit so you can make sure that you utilize it, because it's very helpful when you're trying to troubleshoot or gauge where the student is at in the process. So when you click on that little button I just showed you, a checklist is going to pop up and it has a whole listing on it. And the nice part about the application checklist is that it's in order. So from when the student first applies to when it's ready to disperse. So you can see it's kind of chronological on process flow. You'll also notice that there's little question mark bubbles, help bubbles, and those clarify the task at hand. So when you click on them, I did just a couple of them here to show you, there's a little bit lengthier explanation of what that step is in the process that may help you figure out or troubleshoot. And again, the student can see it on their side as well when they click on it. And then lastly, you can see the responsibility. This is very helpful because you may see a lot of blank items in the list, and it's useful to know, okay, whose court is this in at the moment? Does the student need to do something? Is it waiting on the coordinating board? Is it me? Like, what's going on? So in this example, you can see that all the green checks all the way down to school certification are done. So this is indicating, oh, it's time for us to certify. Okay, so like I mentioned on the borrower summary, you're going to, in order to get to the screen, you have to go to the borrower query, type in either their name or social, and then what it's going to do is it's going to pull any pending applications that are there. On this screen, we've looked at the screen a couple times now, there's the Edit Certification Information button. If this is not there, then that means it's not ready for certification yet. And that's when you can look at the checklist to kind of see what's going on. As long as that button is there, then that means it's ready for certification. Now, you may log in and you look at the student and you're like, wait a minute, I don't see it. Look, it's not there. There's no button. But I know that this one's ready because notice that there's this expand button. And this is just based on your computer's resolution. So if you're zoomed way in, then you're not going to see those buttons. So make sure you expand that little blue accordion there, and then the button will actually appear right below it, the one that says Edit. Okay? So once you click the button, the CAL certification screen is going to pop up, and this is the first thing you're going to see. It's the loan information. All of this information is going to be pre-populated. You will not be able to modify or update it, but you do want to check it just to make sure that it aligns with your school and that it makes sense. Okay? As you scroll down the page, you're also going to find that this is ooh, I went fast. You're going to find that the information for the borrower is already pre-populated, and this is based on what the student submitted on their end. So you will not be able to modify it. Now you can still certify the application. Now if you find something that is wrong, you would want to notify the student so that they can reach out to the coordinating board to get next steps, but there's no way for the institution to go in and correct this. And even with the student, 9 times out of 10, they won't be able to correct it either. They'll have to get assistance from someone in customer service at the coordinating board. Okay, so enrollment information, this is where it's really, really close to TASSP. There's really no difference. So just like TASSP, we're going to fill in the enrollment information with the grade level, enrollment status, loan period, and grad date. And then cost of attendance information minus the financial aid that we talked about, and then the certified loan amount. And the certified loan amount can never exceed what the student asked for. So you need to make sure that whatever you type in there you have to go look to see how much did the student actually apply for. And then you also can't exceed the amount that is the difference between the cost of attendance and financial aid. So the maximum that the school can certify for this particular student is $14,000, which is $20,000 minus the $6,000. That's the max. I'm only certifying 10 because that's all the student wants or needs. Okay. Going to the next screen, again, you have the discretion on how many disbursements you want. If you choose 2, it's going to divide the 10,000 evenly. If you choose 3, it will divide it evenly. And again, you can choose to modify those amounts if you need to, based on the student situation or your academic year. You may need different disbursement amounts, so you can update that. The disbursement dates, again, based on your academic calendar and when the student needs those funds, you'll enter those here. If you go back and change the number of dispersals, it will wipe all that out and it will recalculate everything. Okay. Last step, just like CAL, or excuse me, with TASSP, you click the Certify button and hit Submit. So now we certified, and you realize, I actually need to update something and I don't know what to do. So for many months, we have not had access to update things online. All of those had to be sent through the coordinating board to update, a variety of different reasons, either to cancel a loan, change loan periods, fix dates, all sorts of stuff. But very recently, we notified institutions that change transactions are back. So today I wanted to just focus in a little bit on where you can find information and what you can do in the system. So first and foremost, if you go to Student Financial Aid Programs and you go to the right-hand banner, either on the Loan Programs page or Scholarships page, there is a HelmNet Change Transactions Instruction Guide, and it has a little new next to it. And when you open that up, we have a 3-page little walkthrough instructions on how to make certain changes based on the loan or scholarship status. So it's 3 pages, and on the 3rd page there's a little chart that you can use. And so this again is a nice little cheat sheet. We are already starting to use it internally with our staff. So I recommend that you go out and look at this so that you can navigate more easily. So let's talk about when you actually want to make a change, what do you have access to in HelmNet? Because as you'll notice on the screen there's a whole listing of options, but you only actually have access to the top 3. And those are to update the loan period, which has multiple transactions available within it. You can cancel a loan depending on the status, and you have pre-disbursement changes, which again, a variety of different features within it. So we're going to go through those in just a second. The ones that are unavailable are those bottom 3. Your post-disbursement changes, school refunds, or school refund correction. The HelmNet system is actually just like a financial aid management system. It's used at other institutions of higher education across the nation. So these 3 functions are not used by the coordinating board, but that's why they're there. So if you're trying to click on them and thinking like, oh, well, I should logically be able to click on this, that's why. It's because we've only activated the top 3. Okay. So let's talk about what can you do right now in HelmNet once you've certified somebody. So going back to if you recall earlier, I talked about if a student has an application, it'll be at the top. If they have loans in process or that have already paid, they're going to be at the bottom. So that's what this picture is of. Once you do the borrower query, you're going to pull the student up and you navigate down to their loans. You're going to see the little options on the right-hand side that say Update Loan. Now you'll want to find the one that you're trying to fix, because if they have 2, 3, 4 loans, you can only update certain pieces of the loan depending on where it's at in the process. Okay, so for this student, first step, the student does not want their loan after all. You can go in and you can click on that button that I just showed you that said Update Loan. And on the left-hand side, there's a Cancel Loan button. As long as the disbursements have not paid yet, and it's not within 3 business days of disbursement, you can go in and cancel the loan. You'll click on that and you'll enter the date, and then you'll hit save, and then you'll receive this confirmation message. Now, again, once the loans are extracted from our system and they're basically starting to get paid out, you will not have access to that button any longer. So this is as soon as you certify up until 3 days before that first disbursement's going to go out, you can use the cancel loan feature. Now, once you hit save, after, I don't know the exact amount of time, but once you go back into the student account, you're going to notice that that cancel loan actually changed to reinstate loan. Please be advised that you cannot reinstate a loan even though it's there. We are looking into that feature, but again, this is a shared software, so we don't have 100% control over what shows up in the list. But if you canceled a loan and you need it to be reinstated, you do have to submit those requests through Contact Us so that the coordinating board can process it. And the reason is because there are requirements through Reg Z and disclosure processes where we have to inform the student legally through different disclosures. So we need to be able to do that in our system so that we're going through the proper compliance steps. So even though it's there and it may be functional, please make sure you're sending those to the coordinating board. Okay, pre-disbursement changes. Again, on this left-hand side, there's a pre-disbursement changes link. When you open that up, you're going to be able to see whether or not the disbursements have been paid or whether they're still pending. And you'll also be able to see the dates in which they're scheduled, whether they're hold or release. So this screen gives you a lot of different information. So in this example, I wanted to show you that the first disbursement's already gone out. It went out in August. The second one's still pending, so we can make changes if we need to. We can lower the amount. We can change this from $9,000 all the way down to $0. And that's something to note, is that if you're going to completely zero out a transaction or an amount, you physically have to type in $0.00. Otherwise, it won't save. Again, you can reduce it if you need to. And I gave this example for a reason, because you'll notice that the amount that's guaranteed is actually $20,000 because $1,000 has already been canceled. So hypothetically, you may be able to go in and increase this amount back up to $10,000 if you need that. So until it goes out for disbursement, you can modify this particular disbursement number 2. The other thing is the disbursement date. You can update this to, maybe you realize, oh wait, our census date is on January 9th and we want to push it out a week. So you can go in and move those. Keep in mind that this whole system does have edit checks in it, so you can't change each one of these to anything you want. It has to be within a certain range and it has to meet certain variables. But for the most part, you should be able to modify it to align with your academic year and whatnot. So the other thing here that I mentioned is the release button. There's a hold and a release. You can either update that. Maybe you want to check on the student's eligibility just to make sure. You can do that here, and then you can fix those statuses. And remember, I told you there's a query that you can find those hold and release students. And then lastly, you've got your cancel date. Anytime you're changing the gross amount, you have to enter a cancel date and then hit save. You won't be able to necessarily see the changes automatically. You will need to X out of the screen and then go back in, and then at that point you should be able to see the changes that you've made. Okay, so that's what the pre-disbursement changes does, and you can do this from the minute you certify up until, again, each individual disbursement goes out. Once those goes out, as you can see, it's grayed out. You can't do anything else. The last one on the menu is going to be update loan period. And this is, like as you can see here, you've got the ability to do not only the loan period, but you also have the grade level and the anticipated graduation date. So it's a little bit confusing when you look at the menu. You wouldn't realize that that's where those are located, but that's the spot where you can go in and make those changes. And then once you're done, you hit save. Okay. And again, these are all instructions within the new guide that we posted online. So I would recommend downloading that and going in and checking to make sure all this works for you. And if you need assistance, you can reach out to us. So that's the next thing I wanted to touch on is how do you get in touch with us now? So first and foremost, our financial aid services phone line. I mentioned this on a prior webcast, and I want to let you know now we have opened that back up. So our staff is available to take your phone calls 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Our number is 844-792-2640. I also wanted to let you know that our borrower services line for students and co-signers is coming soon. So we are getting that up and running, and so if students need assistance, they'll be able to call us. We will be announcing that and posting that on the HH Loans website once it's available, and the number is 800-242-3062. So stay tuned for that. Additionally, we have our Contact Us link. I think I drill this onto everybody every single webcast, and that's because this really is a fantastic tool that helps us get your transactions done more quickly, and it helps us get it to the right place within the coordinating board. But you do need to be mindful of how to fill it out. Otherwise, it's going to get routed somewhere totally different, and then it takes a few days to get to the right spot. So as a reminder, when you fill out the Contact Us form, which is on all of our websites, and the form pops up, make sure you click that it's from an institution. That helps it get to our area in financial aid services. Also, make sure you type in the name of your institution, because our team is broken up so that they can work on various institution types. And again, it makes the process go a lot faster. Contact reason is by far the most important. So no matter if you're doing loans, eligibility, processing, anything to do with an institution that's financial aid related, no matter what, you need to select financial aid question. We get a ton of loan inquiries where people are clicking on loan question, which again, student loan question makes sense, but that's related to students. So please make sure you use financial aid question. You also have to enter in the description. So the more information, the better. That way we know how to handle your request. And then you do have to fill in all of the asterisk items below. But one of the ones that's not designated but that we are requesting is that you provide your best direct phone number. And that's helpful because a lot of times, even when we have thorough requests, as you know, there's always follow-up questions or things that we want to discuss. And so this is the best way that we can reach out, is to have your direct line. Okay, so that is the end of the presentation. We took almost the entire time. I hope y'all have been able to ask some questions, but if not, you have something specific to my webcast, you can always email me. My direct email is leah.smalley@highered.texas.gov. I also have a webcast survey there that helps me, again, determine topics, lets me know about technical issues, lets me know if I'm doing great job or not so great job. So please take a few minutes to fill that out. You can fill it out anonymously, or you can fill that out and let me know. And again, I really do look at those and appreciate the feedback. And then lastly, I have one more reminder to utilize Contact Us, because that is one of the best ways to get documented feedback on questions that you have. So with that said, I'm going to exit out of this and see what pending questions we still have that I can answer, and see if there's any other items that either Deshay or Natalie needs me to mention based on what I delivered. So let me toggle out of here. I'm going to pull up my Skype just to see what kind of activity we have going on. Okay. So Deshay and Natalie, if y'all can type me a quick update. Do we have any questions that I need to answer? It looks like there's still lots of back and forth. We were able to answer all of them. Great. And I see that we have a lot more people than when I started, so I hope people didn't miss this. But as a reminder, this is recorded. We're going to upload it onto YouTube and then post it to our webcast archive page. I hope that y'all got some new information. If you're seasoned, if you're new, I hope you learned some stuff about the process and about HelmNet, and that if you need additional resources or training, please reach out to me. We have been trying to schedule one-on-one training with various institutions. So if you have that need, you have new staff, or you just need some help, please let us know. That's what we're here for. So I will give it a minute. If there's any more questions, go ahead and type those in. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up. Okay, I see people dropping off. I'll let this go a few more minutes, but that's all I have for everyone. I hope y'all have a wonderful holiday season and that you have a great new year. And I will talk to y'all next year. And again, thank you for everything. I see one question, Jesse, YouTube channel. It's on our coordinating board YouTube channel, but we post them all on that SFAP page that I kept kind of going over and over on. If you go there on learning resources, there's a webcast archive page, and it has all of the webcasts that I've done, all done chronologically by date. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.